welcome to the Little Blessed Homeschool YouTube channel. For those of you just joining us, my name is Jenna. I am a homeschool mom and a stay-at-home mom of two girls, Lily, who is 9, and Lucy, who is 3. She'll actually be 4 here in a couple days. In today's video, I wanted to talk to you about the homeschool conference. So last weekend, my husband and I went to the homeschool conference in Winston, Salem, North Carolina. It's called the NCHE Thrive Homeschool Conference. It was my first conference, and I needed a few days to process it in order to be able to talk about it. But it was, first of all, it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. And I got to meet some really cool homeschool mom and dads, from all over. There was a lot of people there from North Carolina. There was a couple I met from Virginia. I mean, it was a lot of fun. So first of all, the conference was held over a Thursday, Friday, and a Saturday. And we live about 2 hours away from the conference. So we actually went there Thursday morning. We dropped our kids off at my mom's house Wednesday afternoon. I didn't bring my kids this time, but I think if we go again, we're definitely going to bring them because there's a lot of stuff for kids to do. I just had never been, so I didn't really know. And because the conference is also 2 hours away from our home, we did have to get a hotel room for Thursday night and Friday night. But anyway, so I didn't really know what to expect of the conference, and from pictures I had seen in the past, it looked super busy. And coming from Denver, Colorado, anywhere you go in Denver, you pretty much have to be there hours and hours early, wait in line to get in. So I didn't really know what to expect. So Thursday morning, my husband and I got up at 6 in the morning. The registration for the conference didn't start until 1 o'clock. But it was in a downtown area, so I was thinking that, there was going to be a lot of people and maybe we'd have to fight for parking, and I didn't want to be late. I just really did not want to be late. So we got up at 6 in the morning. We got ready. We left the house about 7:15, 7:30-ish. We went and got breakfast, and then we went and got on the road. And we actually got to Winston-Salem, let's see, I think about 10 o'clock in the morning. And I was just like, and it was just dead. There was like nobody around. And so I was like, well, we can't check into our hotel. None of the restaurants really open till 11, and we can't even register at the conference until 1 o'clock. So I was like, I don't really know what we're going to do. So we ended up going to Target because after the conference, we were going to go to the beach, was originally the plan. That ended up not happening. But my husband needed a new bathing suit, and we wanted to get some snacks for the hotel room and stuff. So we ended up going to Target for a little bit in Winston-Salem. We got a swimsuit. We got some other stuff. And we still were like, well, what do we do? So I'm like, let's just go park. I mean, there's a coffee house. Let's just go sit in the coffee house and look over the schedule and map out what we're going to do. Maybe that'll work. So we went to a coffee house and got some coffee, mapped out what we were going to do. And then at 11... some of the lunch restaurants were opening, so we actually went over to Mellow Mushroom, which is the pizza place. It was right across from the convention, and so we went there and we had lunch, and we kind of just took our time eating lunch. And then I was like, okay, well, it's 12 o'clock. I was like, let's start walking over there because there might be a line. I was like, I don't want to have to wait in line. So we went, and there was nobody. There was no line. There was nothing. So I was just like, okay, well, where is everybody? And so I was kind of a little disappointed that there weren't, it was 12:15 at this point, and there was nobody. Nobody was around. So I was like, let's just go over there and wait. And so finally, about 12:45, people started walking in to register. Now, the first sessions didn't start until 2, and I believe that the vendor hall didn't open until 2 or 2:30. I can't remember. And so finally we started noticing people were starting to walk up to registration. So we walked up, and they actually opened registration a little early, and we got our wristbands, and we got, the program, and then it was 1 o'clock, and the first session didn't start till 2. Again, we just sat around and waited for a while. Now, I was assuming that this was like a huge conference, and that it was going to be super busy, and that we were going to have to wait in line, and we were going to have to, get to the sessions early so we can get a good seat so I can see the speakers. And that was definitely not this conference. It was dead. I mean, around 2 o'clock, it started to get a little bit busier, started getting more people. But our first session was in one of the biggest rooms. I mean, there had to have been like 300, 400 seats in this room. And so, I was like, let's just go in there. Let's get really good seats. I want to make sure we get good seats. And there was maybe like 20 other couples in there for the whole session. I mean, it was an amazing session too. And I'm just thinking, it's kind of dead. And then we went to a couple more sessions. I wanted to focus on preschool because I've never taught somebody how to read, so I wanted to focus on those. And then my oldest daughter is struggling with writing, and there was a couple sessions on helping your child write. So I wanted to go to a bunch of those, and of course the vendor hall. Now here's another thing that I was kind of expecting from the homeschool conference that I don't feel like I got, was every single person that I talked to that had been to this conference or been to other conferences says the vendor hall is like just massive and it's overwhelming. There's so much curriculum. It's just really overwhelming. And I did not get that. I mean, a lot of the vendors that were there didn't even have curriculum with them. Like, you could look through some curriculum, but you couldn't buy it there. You had to buy it online. And I kind of didn't like that. I went there looking for curriculum. I went there looking for some specific curriculum, and I just didn't get that. And then there was a lot of vendors that were there. Like, a lot of colleges were there. And I mean, we're not even there yet. So those I just skipped right over. And then there was a lot of other weird vendors. I don't know how to describe it. Oh, there was a guy there teaching cooking, like a cooking booth, and he had like cooking demos and like pots and pans you can buy. And then I just felt like, okay, but why? Like, this is a homeschool conference. And then there was a lot of people there with gadgets. And then I felt kind of bad for this one lady. She wrote an entire book series, like a fantasy novel book series. She was dressed up in this like fantasy outfits and stuff. And my husband went and talked to her because he's really into those types of books, but they're a little above our kids. And she just stood there and nobody was ever going over to her booth. And so my husband went over there and talked to her for a minute because he likes those kind of books. And unfortunately, they weren't quite his style, so whatever. But and then there was like a soap vendor. I mean, I do candles and soap as my business, but I would never think of going to a homeschool conference to sell them. I just thought that was weird. But the amount of colleges that were there, that's great, I guess, but I was expecting way more. I was expecting way more curriculum. I was expecting that I could look through curriculum to find curriculum. I was also expecting people to actually have curriculum to purchase. Now, I will say that there was like a homeschool store there, and it had just random curriculum from master books, all kinds of stuff, master books, IEW. Actually, IEW actually had their own booth, and but you couldn't buy any curriculum. You had to order it online. They did give me a free shipping code, which I did use because I got some curriculum from them, but I was expecting to purchase the curriculum there and I couldn't, which was, I could look at it, but anyway. Usborne Books was there, which I'm not really a fan of those books per se. I did go over there and I did get my daughter a coloring book. My oldest one, like a color by number book there. And then my youngest one, I got her a book with a marker where she can trace the letters. But other than that, I'm not a fan of Usborne Books. But like I said, a lot of colleges. Military was there, which is great. But I was expecting a lot more. And I was told and it may have happened, it may have been in the past that there was a lot of these curriculum in these booths. Maybe, people are still not doing these things because of COVID and stuff, and that's fine. But I expected a lot more of the vendor hall, and I feel like very disappointed in it. There just wasn't. I did find the spelling curriculum though. So I did get that from the one booth that was actually selling curriculum. I actually got a spelling, and I will be, like I said, doing another video. I have one piece of the puzzle that is in the mail on its way. It has been shipped, and as soon as I get it, I will be doing a video on all the curriculum that I have chosen for next year, which is a lot. I did get another piece of curriculum that I wasn't planning on getting, but when I went to her talk on writing and teaching your kids how to talk or how to write, I bought something from her, and I think it'll really benefit my daughter. So that's the vendor haul. I was super disappointed. I was also super disappointed in the concessions. Like, there wasn't a lot of food, and it was just kind of junk, and it was way overpriced. And that was kind of disappointing too, in a way. But then it comes to all the speakers. And I will tell you that the speakers, some of them were absolutely blew me out of the water, so amazing. And some of them I wanted to get up and walk out on. I will say that I can't remember her name, but I did buy a piece of her curriculum that she writes herself to teach kids writing, and she was my favorite speaker. I think she was the only one that I felt that gave you actual tips and different kinds of tips on how to get your kids to write better. And she actually did 2 sessions, and I went to both of them, and she really helped me, and she was so nice, such a nice lady. And she actually gave you different kinds of tips. There were a few speakers that I didn't quite agree with their point of view, which is fine. Everyone has their own opinions. But I felt that their opinions were pushed in their sessions way more than they should have been. And there were a couple speakers that I flat out didn't agree with at all. And I believe there was only one that halfway through I was just like, this session isn't for me. And we got up and left. But overall, the conference was amazing. Definitely highly recommend going to the conferences. I was a little disappointed at how dead it was. Like, they had these rooms, these conference rooms set up. Some of them had like 400 chairs in them, and they would maybe fill like 20 of them. So I don't know if it was just like people didn't come this year or what, but it was not as busy as I thought it was going to be. In fact, it was very dead. I thought I was going to have to fight crowds. I thought I was going to have to hurry to each session so I can get a good seat, and none of that. It was dead. There was not a lot of people there at all. I only saw one of the keynote speakers. There were 3 keynote speakers, and I only managed to get to one of them. One of them was on Thursday night, and I heard from my friend that it was amazing, and I'm really bummed that I didn't go to that one, but my husband and I were like absolutely starving. And so we hadn't checked into our hotel yet. And the keynote speaker was on at 7:30 to 9:30, and it was already 6:00, and we didn't have enough time to go get dinner, go check into our hotel, and come back. So we made the decision not to go. And I will say that I'm pretty bummed I made that decision, because I heard that her speech was just absolutely amazing, and I'm kind of mad that I missed it. But Thursday morning at 9:30 or not in the morning, there was another keynote speaker, and he was really good. And I did enjoy his keynote speaking, and he was basically talking about how the elites are trying to stop us from homeschooling, and it was very informative, and it was very powerful, and it did help, and it helped us know what to do if somebody tries to take away our ability to homeschool. And so he was helpful with that. So Thursday we did a few sessions, and then we checked out the vendor hall. And the Thursday we kind of just did a lap in the vendor hall, checked out some stuff, and then our last session ended at like 5:50, I believe. And then, like I said, we went to dinner. We were starving. That's the one thing too. The concessions there was like hot dogs and chicken fingers, and then a bunch of snack food. And it was like a can of pop was $2. Bottled water was $2, I think. I can't remember. And I'm just like, this is like unnecessary how expensive it was. And there wasn't enough time to walk over to one of the restaurants that was within walking distance and come back. So my husband and I on Thursday, we went to a few sessions. We did a lap in the vendor hall just to see what was there. And then we went to dinner off site, because we actually stayed in a hotel that was about 12 minutes down the road. And the only reason we didn't stay downtown and on site was just because my husband and I had some hotel points to stay in that hotel, and it was only like a 12-minute drive. And since we had the car anyway, we decided to do that. And then we went to dinner, and then we went and checked into our hotel, and we had already been up since 6 a.m. And so we crashed. We went right to sleep, and we had to be up so early because I wanted to be back in time for the keynote speaker. And again, I was thinking, okay, well, tomorrow's a Friday, and a lot of people maybe didn't come on Thursday because it was Thursday. We need to get there super early so that we, make sure that we get seats and blah, blah, blah. So I think registration started at 8:30, so we got there at like 8, even though we didn't have to register. I just wanted to make sure. And then the first keynote speaker was at like 9:30. We showed up and there was nobody. Not even the people working the conference were there. We walked in and nobody was there. And I was just like, I don't know, like I was in shock that there was just nobody. And so we actually sat, they had these comfy couches, and oh no, we went and got coffee and then we came back and then we sat in these comfy couches and we just waited. And it was like a waiting game. And then, but I went over the schedule again of the speakers to make sure that I wanted to do the certain ones that I had picked. And Friday was full, like keynote speaker. And then we literally had a session every single hour up until like 7 o'clock that night. And so we were just constantly in sessions, and we saw some, we actually listened to quite a few good sessions actually on Friday. Keynote speaker was good. That's when we went to, I believe, another writing session. And then I went to a bunch of like how to teach, pre-K, how to teach reading. We did see one speaker, and I don't know if anyone else calls their little kids littles, but everyone at the homeschool conference said, so this is how you teach the littles. And I don't know why, but it just annoyed me. I don't like calling them the littles. And I'm just like, just say toddlers or pre-K. I don't know. That annoyed me. But for the most part, Friday was a good day. We were back to back all day. We sat in on a session every single hour. And then we went to the vendor hall and we did another lap. And that's when I originally bought one spelling curriculum. And I will tell you, when I got back to the hotel, I was just like, ooh, I don't like this. And I was looking through the book, and the book was rubber band, like had a bunch of rubber bands on it before I purchased it. And I felt weird about opening it, so I didn't. And I thought that would be a good curriculum, and I got it home and I was just like, this is horrible. And it kind of cost a lot of money, more than I think I wanted to spend on just a spelling curriculum. So I ended up asking if I could return it, and they let me, and I actually picked out a different spelling that I think my daughter would like a lot better, and that one was much cheaper too. And so I did return that, and I got the cheaper spelling, which I think that it had a lot more spelling games to do and like crosswords. My daughter loves crosswords, and so I thought that would be better than this other one. And so I went with that, and then I did buy a couple more stuff at the vendor hall. And then Friday night, my husband and I decided, since we didn't have kids, we were going to do a date night. We did just celebrate our wedding anniversary, but we didn't do anything because we don't really have a babysitter per se, so we didn't do anything. And since my mom had the girls, I was like, let's do that. So we went and saw Top Gun. If you have not seen that movie yet, go see it. It was amazing. It was one of the best movies that I have seen in a long time. It was amazing. And the thing that sucked though is we chose the 9:30, and we pre-bought our tickets because we knew it was going to be busy. And we picked 9:30 because I wasn't sure if we'd be done at the conference, and we wanted to go to dinner as well. So we went to Texas Roadhouse for dinner, and we thought it's going to be, anytime we go to Texas Roadhouse here where we live, it's like 2-hour wait. And we get there, and I was assuming it'd be this long wait, and it was like a 15-minute wait, which ended up being like a 5-minute wait. And then we ate dinner real quick, and then I was like, well, we still have like 2 hours till the movie. So we went back to the hotel, because actually the hotel was walking distance to the theater, but we drove because it was raining over to the theater, and we saw Top Gun, but it didn't get out till after midnight, and we had to be back Saturday morning because I think the first session we did not do the keynote speaker on Saturday morning. And we were originally going to do it, but because we stayed out so late the night before, we didn't. And I didn't actually ask anybody if they went to that one, so I'm not sure how that one went. But Saturday was disappointing. We saw some speakers so my husband went to the dad's speaker, and I went to a reading one to teach your little ones how to read. And my husband went to the dad's one, and my husband didn't per se like it because he felt that the guy that was teaching it or speaking was basically like forcing his view on everybody. Like, if you don't do this, this, and this, you're a horrible person. And so my husband actually, he stayed the whole time, but he said he wanted to leave. And then I went to this one to learn about reading, and the woman who was doing the session actually was very opinionated and very much like, she had like 8 kids, I think she said, and this is how I taught them, and this is how you should do it, and any other way is wrong. And I don't agree with that. I agree that there's, every child is different, and every child learns differently, and there's different ways. And from her having 8 children and saying, I taught every one of my kids this way, and this is how you need to do it, and there's no other way. Like, I went into her session wanting tips on, how to teach your kids to read. And she basically said, this is how you do it, and this is the only way. And my opinion is the only one that matters. And I just really don't get, that's just not me. I like to get different opinions. I like to get different tips. I like to get different things, and I try different things. I don't do one thing and say, this is what's going to happen. So there was that. And my husband didn't have a good time. And then the next one we went to, we thought that this session was about, again, learning how to, navigate the homeschool world when you have people that don't agree with it and that judge you. And it ended up being a politics session. And it was literally this guy standing up in the room teaching us about the Supreme Court and the Constitution. And I didn't understand a word. I mean, I understand what the Constitution and all of that is, but for an hour, he spoke about all this legislative stuff. And I'm just like, I have no idea what he's talking about. And so we almost walked out of that one, but there was no one else in there but like 2 other couples in this huge room. And I was like, if we walk out, it's going to be like, so we didn't, so we stayed. But it was horrible. And then after that, my husband, he didn't want to go. There was this, after that session, there was a moms only session that I went to, and it was for working moms. So it said working moms and homeschooling, is it possible? And it said it was just for moms. So I went to it, but tons of dads were in there. And my husband he went down to the vendor hall to hang out down there while I did this. And they were giving away some stuff that you did have to be present to win anyway. So he went down there and hung out down there for a little bit. And I will say that this last session that I went to was working moms and homeschooling, is it possible? And she was actually there because she had developed a curriculum of her own, and I think it was called Gather Round. And it was her and her husband that had done this this curriculum that they written together, and they were living out of an RV because their house and their barn went up in flames a couple months prior to the conference. She made me cry. In a good way, in an amazing way. She was my favorite speaker of the entire conference. I think her name was Rebecca something. I don't know where, I put it upstairs. I don't know where my thing was, but Rebecca something. And she did a curriculum. She does a curriculum called Gather Round. And actually, she was there, and I went to her booth numerous times because I really like her curriculum, but it's so expensive. It's way more than I would spend on a curriculum, but I'm kind of considering it because I really liked it. And in her curriculum, she had preschool, which is what I was considering, but she has unit studies. She doesn't have like a math and a language arts and but she has like little unit studies. And I really liked her preschool, and I really wanted to get all the books, but I mean, a little more than I wanted to spend, so I didn't. And I already bought a preschool curriculum for this year anyway. But I might consider it for next year for my youngest, because she'll still be doing preschool next year. We don't know. But anyway, she was my favorite speaker. She was amazing. And she made me cry. And in a good way. It was a good cry. Just about how, she's a working mom and she homeschools her kids, and how she makes it possible, and gave amazing tips on how to be a working mom and a homeschooling mom and to make it all work. And she has 5 or 6 kids. I cannot remember. I think 6. And she homeschools them all. And she works. She does this curriculum, and she's always worked. Whether it be she did a blog at one point, and she's always done her own work. And for those of you that didn't watch one of my other videos, I also work. I am a stay-at-home mom. I do homeschool my kids, but I also work, and I run a business out of my home. I actually run it out of my garage over there. And the summers are really slow for my business, but the fall and Christmas and Mother's Day are super busy. And sometimes it gets very, very, very stressful because I do homeschool my kids, I do take care of the house, and I do this business. And it gets super stressful sometimes. And so I went to her session. She gave amazing tips. Some of them were just common sense that honestly I didn't even think about. Like one of the tips that she gave, which is totally common sense, totally doable, and I just didn't even think about it. I mean, I do it sometimes, but she said that, you know, in the fall, winter, and like the spring, she does every day of the week is a crock pot meal, and she preps them on Sunday and puts them in the freezer and puts them in a bag, and then she just dumps it in the crock pot, and literally dinner is ready to go by the end of the day. And so she doesn't have to worry about dinner. She gave some other tips about making sure that the kids help around the house. I mean, she showed a picture of her at the time. I think her daughter's the youngest one is older now, but when her daughter was 3, she taught her how to vacuum the living room, and she had a picture of her daughter vacuuming the living room. I have a 3-year-old. She would never vacuum the living room. Well, our vacuum's too big for her. I mean, she's swept before, but I mean, just she had some great, amazing tips on how to be a working mom and how to homeschool your kids. And so that was amazing, I thought. But anyway, so what it all comes down to is the homeschool conference was probably one of the most amazing experiences that I have ever done. If we do go next year, which I want to, but we'll see, you know, life might get in the way. If we go next year, I'm definitely bringing my kids because we didn't see it because it was in the Marriott. It was not at the convention center. But apparently they have an entire room dedicated to kids, and the picture showed like bouncy castles, fun activities for them to do, and you can drop them off and you have to pay for it in the room while you go and sit in sessions. But I thought we could go as a family maybe next year, and I could go to a lot of the sessions because I'm the one doing the teaching, and I got way more out of it than my husband did because he works. I mean, he has a regular, 9-to-5 job. So he works. He doesn't really do the homeschooling. I mean, he has substituted for me sometimes when I'm super busy. But I could, and so we were thinking that if we brought the kids, we'd stay in a hotel, we'd stay on site this time. It'd be easier just to be able to walk to the convention instead of having to drive there and pay for parking, because the parking was $10 a day. So, I mean, not bad, but I would have rather just spent that $30 that we paid and paid a little extra for a hotel room that we could just park at once and then, walk to the conference. There was a Marriott and an Embassy Suites right there. So I was kind of, maybe we should have stayed there, but it's okay. And then we'd bring the kids, and, one day I could go to a bunch of sessions and the kids could go to the pool, like the hotel pool with my husband, or, we can both go to sessions and we can drop them off at the kids zone. Another thing too is, like I said, I was the only thing I was super disappointed with is I was told by moms that had been to the conference before from my co-op. I talked to quite a few of them who have gone to the homeschool conference in the past, and they said that the vendor hall was super overwhelming, so much curriculum, like you can't even go through it all. And I mean, I don't know if it was just a lame year. There was not as much curriculum as I was hoping for. There was a lot of colleges there. And there was also a lot of just like random stuff that I'm just like, but why? So I was a little disappointed in the vendor hall. And for the most part, all of the speakers and all of the sessions that we sat in were really good. There was a few exceptions that weren't so great. But for the most part, a lot of the people that spoke were amazing. I talked to a lot of moms that homeschool. I talked to quite a few dads that homeschooled. And I made some new friends too. I mean, so overall, the experience of the homeschool conference was amazing. I definitely highly recommend that if there's one in your area that you go to it. and you check it out and you listen to other perspectives because they're amazing. And I just, I got a lot out of it. I learned a lot of tips, especially about reading and writing, was mostly what I was focusing on, and I loved every minute of it. I do believe that if you don't have a homeschool conference in your area, that you can actually purchase the MP3s from this conference online, and you can listen to some of the speakers. So there's an option too if you don't have one by you. But anyway, so that is my takeaway from the homeschool conference. Again, like I said, I totally recommend that you go to one, especially if you're a new homeschooler, because there's a lot of great tips out there. And there's a lot of families that go that are veteran homeschoolers that you can just talk to other families and get some tips that way as well. And it's a lot of fun. And so, yeah, so that is everything I think I got from the homeschool conference. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I am going to be doing a video coming up here, hopefully in the next week, of all the curriculum that we will be using next year. I'm waiting on one more item to arrive. It did ship today, so hopefully it'll be here in a couple of days, and I can get that video made so everyone can see what I have chosen for the next school year. This weekend's going to be a little busy. My 3-year-old is turning 4 on Saturday, so even if the book comes in the next couple of days, I'm not going to be doing a video until next week. So anyways, I hope everyone has an amazing day, an amazing summer. We have no plans this summer. It's going to be a fun summer. So yeah, so thanks for watching. You can like, subscribe, comment. Also, you can follow us on Instagram at Little Blessed Homeschool. And there I post a lot of stuff that we're doing this summer, that we've done over the school year and stuff like that. So thanks.